Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to another Bracketology update. This one is for December 2nd, as you can see up there. After a crazy week of basketball for Thanksgiving week, we had the Battle for Atlantis, the Maui Championship, the 2K Sports Classic, all that good stuff, but there was no bigger winner than Michigan right there. They went from just receiving 12 votes in last week's poll to now being number 4 and earning a number 1 seed after beating Creighton, Iowa State, North Carolina, and Gonzaga back to back. No more team was impressive than that, and I will be seeing a battle of the 1 seeds, Louisville and Michigan, tomorrow at the KFC Yum Center. Man, I am pumped for it at 7:30. Let me know if you want to see a vlog of that. I will definitely be there. Just haven't decided if I'm going to vlog yet or not. We'll just kind of see. Definitely want to. I just want to get your guys' feedback. If you'd watch the video, then I'll go ahead and do it. But just kind of a look at the different bracket right here. Purdue went down to an 8, Arkansas went up to a 9, Butler up to a 5, Houston down to a 12, Baylor up to a 4, Memphis down to a 6, and then the playing game of DePaul and Illinois. Kentucky is now a 3 seed. I think that was updated last week, but I did not make a video for it. Then San Diego State is new to the field as a 7, so that's a pretty big jump for them. Oklahoma State is up to a 10. Michigan State is down to a 2 after losing to Virginia Tech. UT Arlington is new to the field. And as I mentioned earlier, Michigan is now a 1 seed. Marquette is down to an 8. Texas Tech down to a 9. Northern Iowa up to a 12. Oregon down to a 4. Louisiana Tech is new to the field as a Conference USA representative. Dayton is up to a 6 after an impressive run in the Maui. I think they beat Virginia Tech and a couple other good teams and then gave Kansas a run for their money, forced them into overtime in the championship game of that. I was impressed with them. Then Creighton and Mississippi State in the playing game. Gonzaga down to a 3, Washington down to a 7, LSU down to a 10, Duke down to a 2 after losing to Stephen F. Austin. I absolutely love that, but I can't say too much. As a Kentucky fan, losing to Evansville, it's just crazy that those 2 games, Kentucky lost at home to Evansville, and then Duke loses at home to Stephen F. Austin of all teams. So that's just crazy. College basketball has been crazy this season. Then up here, Eastern Washington is new to the field with Kansas being the 1 seed. Utah State is down to an 8. Seton Hall with Miles Powell is down to a 5. Florida State is now up to a 4. Yale is new to the field as the Ivy League representative. Florida is now up to a 6. Liberty's up to an 11. North Carolina is now down to a 3. Oklahoma's down to a 10. Maryland is now the number 3 team in the nation. Pretty impressive by them. They're now a 2 seed. Then Rider is up to a 15. And then down here we have Virginia as the 1. Texas down to an 8. VCU down to a 9. More on that later. Villanova down to a 5. UNC Greensboro new to the field. They were pretty impressive this past week. Indiana new to the field. Auburn now a 3. Colgate a 14. St. Mary's a 7. And then South Dakota as a 15. Those were the changes up and down seed lines. And I'll go ahead and show you guys the bubble. Last 4 in: Mississippi State, Illinois, Creighton, and DePaul. Then the first 4 out are Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Wichita State, and Iowa State. And then the next 4 out are Iowa, Temple, BYU, and Stanford. So this team's got some work to do. But it's still the beginning of December. I mean, conference play hasn't even popped up yet. So we still got a ton of time for those teams to make impressions. And then I will go ahead and do this bracketology on this Excel document here. As I've been mentioning, Brackify got shut down, so I'm trying to find an alternative where there's like logos and stuff to make them more visually appealing and ways for you guys to vote. But I haven't been able to find it yet. Today is my last day of college classes right there. It is December 2nd, as you can see. Last day of college classes, graduate in 11 days. Gonna be super excited for that. I'll have a little bit more time. I'm still gonna be working full time and all that jazz, but glad to be out of college, graduating in December, so woo! So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the bracketology. First, we have Louisville. Obviously, they're going to beat the winner of Morgan State and Texas Southern. Then we have Purdue versus Arkansas. I would go with Purdue at this point, though Arkansas has been actually pretty impressive this season. They've been exceeding my expectations. Butler, I think, would beat Houston. Then Baylor would beat Toledo. Memphis, I think, would beat the winner of DePaul and Illinois, which at this point I would honestly go with DePaul. Then Kentucky would beat New Mexico State. Oklahoma State, I'm going to actually have upsetting San Diego State here to face the winner of Michigan State and UT Arlington, which obviously would be Michigan State. Then down here we have Michigan beating the winner of Radford and St. Francis. Obviously that's going to be Michigan. Marquette and Texas Tech, a battle of 2 honestly kind of disappointing teams this season. Neither team has really been playing well so far. I mean, Marcus Howard, almost said Jordan Howard. Marcus Howard has been killing it. I think he had 51 the other day. Congratulations to him. And I think that they're going to be able to beat Texas Tech in this first round right there. Tennessee, I think, will beat Northern Iowa. Oregon, I think, will beat Louisiana Tech. Then Dayton, as I've said, they've been pretty impressive. I think they'll beat the winner of Creighton, Mississippi State. In that game, I think that Mississippi State will win. Gonzaga will beat UC Irvine. UC Irvine is one of my trendy picks for an upset, just like they upset Kansas State last year. I think, a 13 seed. I'd gotten that right in my bracketology, I believe. Honestly, I don't know. I may have had Kansas State winning that one. I don't remember. LSU, I think, will be able to beat Washington with an upset there at 10/7, and then Duke will beat Hofstra. Then moving on to the top right side of the bracket, we have Kansas and Eastern Washington. Obviously, Kansas, I picked the blank one there. Kansas will beat Eastern Washington. Then Penn State, another surprise team, kind of like Arkansas, beating preseason expectations. I'm going to go with Penn State beating Utah State there. Utah State was a top 25 team. Now I think they're either number 25 or out. They've been kind of disappointing, to be honest. Then I think that Seton Hall and Miles Powell will beat Vermont, who is another trendy pick. I just don't like that matchup there. Florida State, I think, will fall to Yale. That's kind of one of my first big upsets of this bracket. Florida State has just been a weird team this season. They've beaten some pretty impressive teams like Florida, but then they went and lost. I can't remember who it was. Like at the very beginning of the season, they had a really bad loss. I think it was like Pittsburgh or something, and almost lost to Western Carolina, something like that. Then Florida, I think, will also lose to Liberty. I'm going to go with another upset pick there. I think this is an 11/6. And just the state of Florida. If you're a state of Florida fan, it sucks to be you there, but I'm going to go with an upset with Liberty. They've been pretty impressive, and Florida has not been impressive this season. Now I'm going to go with North Carolina beating Wright State. Colorado, I think, will beat Oklahoma, and then Maryland will beat Rider. Then for the final first round games, or second round games if you don't want to count the first four, Virginia versus Sam Houston State. Gonna go with Virginia there. Texas and VCU. As I mentioned earlier, this kind of expand upon this matchup right here. The Texas coach, Shaka Smart, going up against his alma mater. I guess if you want to say that, coaching alma mater. I don't know how that works out, but he used to coach VCU before he went to Texas, and I'm honestly gonna go with Texas there. I think they're a more talented team, and they'll be able to get the job done there. And then Villanova will beat Belmont. Arizona, I think, will be able to beat UNC Greensboro. Another almost upset pick there, but I think Arizona is just the more talented team this season. Xavier, I think, will beat Indiana. I'm surprised to see Indiana in this position. I mean, I didn't think they were supposed to be this good, especially after they lost Romeo Langford. Then Auburn, I think, will beat Colgate. Then we got St. Mary's losing to West Virginia. West Virginia, another one of those teams that's been pretty impressive this season, ahead of expectations. And then Ohio State beating South Dakota. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, moving back up here, Louisville and Purdue battle the ACC versus Big Ten. And I'm going to go with Louisville there. And you guys are going to have to excuse me. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit from yelling at the Colts game, which that vlog is going to be coming out soon. And just working and all that stuff. My voice has been a little bit out and may cut in and out here and there. Butler, I think, will lose to Baylor. But Memphis and Kentucky, preseason, people may have thought this would have been in the national championship game. I think Wiseman would be back in time for the tournament, but I think Kentucky will be able to get the victory there over Memphis. Then Michigan State, I think, would be Oklahoma State. Then moving on to the bottom right here, we got Michigan and Marquette. Battle of the two M teams. I think Marquette's in Wisconsin, so it'd be kind of a regional matchup. But I'm going to go with Michigan. I mean, they have the most impressive resume in the country right now, and they haven't lost, so I can't discount them at this point. Then Tennessee, I think, will lose to Oregon. Peyton Pritchard's going to lead them to a victory there. Then Dayton, I'm actually going to pick them to beat Gonzaga right here. Dayton's been battle-tested so far this season, beating Virginia Tech, who beat Michigan State, and then giving Kansas a challenge down to the wire in overtime. I think they'll be able to beat Gonzaga there. Then Duke, I think, will beat LSU, sadly. I'm a Kentucky fan, if you guys didn't know already or you're new to the channel, and I hate seeing Duke win. Then Kansas will beat Penn State. That one will be pretty obvious there. Seton Hall, I think, will be able to hold off Yale there. Miles Powell will be able to take over that game. North Carolina will hold off the upset bid of Liberty to move on. And then Maryland will beat Colorado. Then down here in this regional, we got Virginia and Texas. I'm going to go with the Virginia. Their defense has just been incredible, holding Syracuse to 34 points and then Maine to 26 points for the entire game. That's just crazy to me. And then Villanova, I think, will get the victory here. Minor upset, 5/4, nothing too big there. And then we got Xavier and Auburn. I'm going to go with Auburn there. They've been getting some dubs here recently. And then Ohio State beating West Virginia. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, moving back up here to the top left, Louisville and Baylor. I got to go with Louisville. They haven't been tested too hard so far this season, but they'll have that huge game tomorrow against Michigan. Then Kentucky and Michigan State. These two teams already played earlier this season. It was a battle of like number 1 versus number 2, but now they're a 2 and 3 seed, so that's kind of changed up a little bit. But Kentucky won earlier this season, and I have no reason to go against them again here. I'm going to go with Kentucky beating Michigan State. Michigan and Oregon. Obviously, Michigan has the best resume in the country, and I think they get the victory there against Oregon. We got to see how the rest of their season goes. But then that sets up a match with Duke, who I have beating Dayton right there. I think Duke's going to be the more talented team. And moving on up here to the top right regional, we got Kansas and Seton Hall. I'm going to go with Kansas there. As much as I want to pick Seton Hall to beat Kansas there, I mean, Seton Hall is just kind of a one-man team at this point. I think Kansas has too much talent to overcome there. Then North Carolina, I think, will beat Maryland here. I know that's kind of going with the Blue Bloods here, but Maryland is a really good team. They have Anthony Cohen. I can never remember if Bruno Fernando's still on the team or not. Haven't been following Maryland too much. But as a 2 seed, they've been hanging there pretty good, so I got to give credit to them. Virginia and Villanova, I got to go with Tony Bennett and the Virginia Cavaliers moving on there. They've been really impressive this season, and I just got to go with them winning that matchup there. Then Auburn, I didn't pick them. Auburn and Ohio State, this would be a great football game to watch, but basketball would be pretty good too. Don't know enough about these two teams to really give an analysis on it so far this season, but I'll go with the higher seeded team with Ohio State. And then for a spot in the Final Four, Louisville versus Kentucky. These two teams are going to play at the end of December. Really excited to see how that game turns out. And then once they play here on a neutral court, I think that game will be in Rep. But right now, I just got to go with Louisville. Louisville hasn't tripped up against the lower-ranked teams. Kentucky has. That's all I got to say about that matchup. And then Michigan and Duke right here. Man, a rivalry from the 90s. That'll be great to see. I think that Duke ends up getting the victory here. I know I've been talking about how Michigan hasn't been letting up against anybody. But I think that Duke is the more talented team with the recruiting class and all that. I think that Mike Krzyzewski is a better coach than Juwan Howard at this point. But they may prove me wrong. Michigan could definitely win that game. But I think Duke's going to win that for now. Then Kansas and North Carolina up here. I'm going to go with Kansas moving on. Don't want to have all these ACC teams in because I think I'll have 3 ACC teams in the Final Four. I could potentially have 4 if I had gotten North Carolina over Kansas. But I think Kansas would be able to repel Cole Anthony and the rest of the North Carolina squad. Then we have Ohio State losing to Virginia. Virginia is just going to overwhelm them with their defense, which sets up a Final Four of Louisville versus Duke and Kansas versus Virginia. Then I think I'm going to have Duke beating Louisville. I think Louisville is a better team right now, but once the tournament comes around, I think Mike Krzyzewski is going to get Duke in a position to win a national championship. Then I'm going to go with Kansas beating Virginia. I think Kansas is also going to be a really talented team. Number 1 seed facing off against the number 2 seed. I got to give credit to Virginia, but I don't think their defense is going to hold against Kansas there. So for the national champion, I am going to go with Kansas at this point. I mean, this season has had so much parity, and I have no idea who would win the national championship at this point. I'm going to go with Kansas, though. Do not feel confident having them winning at all, but that's just the way I kind of see it with the bracket working itself out. So let me know what you guys think of my bracket and my picks. Let me know if you want to see that Louisville versus Michigan vlog tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think of the bracket and your own picks. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the support I've gotten. I'm back over 4,000 subscribers, so thank you all for that. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later.